Before I explain why I feel intention is so important in our lives and why I believe we can manifest everything we have always wanted and dream about, the perfect life, perfect dream, first need to clarify the background, why things work, how things work. And the most important thing is this concept of God. Because there are a lot of people out there that are not sure if God exists, or they're sure God doesn't exist. And I want to say there is a God, or God force. And for thousands and thousands of years, God and science coexisted. They got along. They were best friends. They were buddies. They were lovers. God and science, everything was united. And then things started to go a little sour. There was some tension there until about Middle Ages in Europe, Western civilizations. By the Middle Ages, God and science got into a huge argument. And they both stomped their feet, went their separate ways, and they haven't spoken since. Worse than that, like a couple of people fighting on social media, they've been trading arguments back and forth, throwing knives and just not getting along, trying to get people on their side and creating a huge rift. And this divide has led to wars and just some ridiculousness in modern society, this fight between science and religion. And science, though, has become so good at picking apart the workings of the universe that the traditional religions are finding it harder and harder to refute what it's finding, to the point where a lot of people no longer believe there is a God. And by the end of the 20th century, there was a phrase, God is dead, that started to come out. However, modern cosmologists and scientists have started to refute that. And God is getting a pulse, so to speak. Because what they are finding is that even though science explains a lot, it's not by random chance. The universe really could not exist as it is without some form of guidance. There's something behind the scenes that is leading life, that has a purpose. And this implies a consciousness. Yes, you can have guidance without consciousness. Missiles, for example, they're guided by computer programs that analyze the environment and make changes in trajectory and multiple things. But I have a hard time believing, and I hope you do too, in a universe controlled by some giant computer program. I think there's a consciousness, or at least a force, a purpose. Anyway, one of the fields that is causing scientists to analyze this is evolution, biology, and classical Darwinism. And classical Darwinism proclaims that complex life forms evolved through random mutations. And as an organism reproduces, its offspring have mutations, changes in their DNA, and those offspring that have mutations better designed to survive the environment live on. Those with mutations that do not fit in and abide well in the environment die off. And in this way, life improves. And it makes sense on the surface, just like a lot of our natural laws of physics and science. But what we're finding is that it won't work. They're finding it would create mass extinctions. There's not enough time. Um, Erwin Laszlo, in his book Science in the Akashic Field and the Creative Cosmos, uses an analogy from mathematical physicist Fred Hoyle. And he compares this to a blind man doing the Rubik's Cube. And you hand the Rubik's Cube to this blind man, and he has 1 second per move. It would take him 126 billion years to go through every possible move on the cube. That's over 10 times as long as the universe is thought to be in existence. However, if you put a person next to him who simply provided a yes or no answer every second to every move he made, that 126 billion years is down to 2 minutes. He could solve that cube in 2 minutes. And that's the importance of guidance. And Darwinism and modern cosmologists, biologists believe that these mutations are not simply by chance. And actually, we're finding this in changes in modern life. We're seeing that organisms, bacteria especially, change. It's not just randomly. The changes, the mutations are occurring in response to environmental factors. So there's a reaction to things. It's not simply random. And again, it's going towards a guiding force in the background. Nature is learning. Another thing that has always puzzled, I shouldn't say always, but it's puzzled me for years, which leads me to believe that there is something behind the scenes. It's just the reproduction itself, the need to propagate. I think about, okay, life, first life. You get proteins and just hanging out in the primordial soup, and then bam, life occurs. And you have this simple one-celled organism just wallowing away in the sunshine, enjoying, soaking in the rays, drinking tequila, having the time of its life. It has everything in the universe it could ever want. And then one day, sitting there, finishes the tequila and says, I want to have a baby. So it splits itself in two. Each regrows itself back into its original shape, all its organs, so does the extra one, and now you have two of them. And you have the same finite number of resources, the sunlight, the energy, but now it's sharing. And then each one reproduces more and reproduces more, to the point where there's competition for these resources. And eventually they evolve more, and they some of them become predators because there's too much competition and not enough resources. So why would an organism do this? Why would it create competition? And as you get into look at propagation, reproduction, as it in more complex organisms, plants will send out thousands and millions of seed pods to reproduce, in the hope that some of them, animals, will send out thousands of eggs in the hope that some of them will live on. There's a desire for species to live on, survival of a species. And this desire comes before self-preservation. There are animals out there who know they are going to die when they propagate. There are female who will kill and devour the male after copulation. There are male animals that will die simply from exhaustion. If there wasn't such a need for propagation, why did God invent alcohol and frat houses? There is a huge need for life to continue. And if things were simply random events, would this need exist? So life has a purpose. I have no doubt of that. There is a reason that life exists. There's a reason that we evolved. We might not know what it is. I think I can make some good insights in future videos. So, yes, God exists. We may disagree on the aspect. And I will get more into my beliefs on that in next video before we get into intention and manifesting. However, suffice it to say that there is a God, and therefore intention is important, and you are important. We are important. We're part of an integral part of everything. Thank you.